Commander Sarah Chen stood at perfect attention on the bridge of the UES Meridian, her dress uniform collar strangling her growing sense of unease. The Vorkath ambassador's movements sent warning signals screaming through her handbrain. The way it stalked rather than walked, the predatory tilt of its head, the flexing of razor-sharp appendages that seemed more suited to disemboweling prey than signing peace treaties. Maintain protocol. Admiral Warren's voice crackled through her earpiece. This is a historic moment for humanity. Don't mess it up, Commander. Chen's fingers twitched toward the tactical console. The Vorkath delegation's biosignatures were accelerating, their body temperatures rising in patterns she'd seen in Earth's apex predators before an attack. But questioning the Admiral's orders now would end her career faster than a mass driver round. Your species, the Vorkath ambassador's translator rasped, presents us with an interesting puzzle. Its head swiveled unnaturally, compound eyes reflecting the bridge's emergency lighting. You build mighty vessels, yet you approach with such submission. We come in peace, Admiral Warren declared, following the carefully scripted diplomatic protocols. Humanity seeks only friendship and mutual understanding. Chen saw it then. The subtle shift in the Vorkath's posture, the way the entire delegation seemed to coil like springs. Their thermal signatures spiked. Admiral, she started. The Vorkath ambassador moved faster than any being its size should be capable of. Warren's diplomatic greeting ended in a gurgling scream as alien claws tore through his throat. The bridge erupted into chaos. Combat stations. Chen roared, diving for the tactical console. Her fingers flew across the controls, but the Vorkath ship had already opened fire. The first volley struck the Meridian's primary power core. Warning klaxons screamed as systems failed across the ship. Chen watched in horror as targeting sensors showed 3 more Vorkath vessels decloaking around them. They'd walked right into an ambush, gift-wrapped in diplomatic protocols. Get me weapons, she demanded, but engineering reported catastrophic failures throughout the power grid. The bridge grew darker as emergency systems kicked in, life support drawing minimal power. That's when she noticed something odd on her thermal displays. The Vorkath weapons were devastating, but they were missing large sections of the unpowered portions of the ship. Their targeting systems seemed to track energy signatures and heat, leaving the coldest sections of the Meridian untouched. Evacuate the hot zones, she ordered, her mind racing. Get everyone into the unpowered sections. They're targeting our energy signatures. The ship shuddered under another barrage. A support beam crashed down nearby, crushing the Admiral's bloody corpse. Chen's tactical display showed the ship's sensor logs still running on backup power. Data that could prove crucial for understanding the Vorkath's attack patterns and weaknesses. Commander, her XO shouted over the chaos. Engineering reports critical core breach in 3 minutes. We need to abandon ship. The last emergency escape pods were clustered around the backup bridge, where most of the command staff had gathered. But the sensor core was in the opposite direction, its cooling systems making it nearly invisible to Vorkath targeting. Chen had seconds to decide. Save her crew and lose vital intelligence that might help humanity survive, or risk everything for data that might make the difference in the war she knew was coming. The ship groaned around her, structural integrity failing. She made her choice. Get everyone to the escape pods, she ordered her XO. I'm going after the sensor core. Commander, you'll never make it. That's an order, XO. Get our people out. Humanity needs to know what we learned here today. Chen ran through darkened corridors, using her suit's thermal imaging to avoid hot spots the Vorkath were targeting. The sensor core hummed quietly in its cryogenic housing, recording everything. She yanked the data cores free, feeling them burn cold against her chest, even through her uniform. The ship's death throes nearly threw her off her feet as she sprinted back. Warning indicators showed atmospheric failure imminent. Her lungs burned as she pushed herself harder, the precious data cores clutched tight. She reached the last escape pod just as the final structural supports gave way. The acceleration crashed her against the pod's rear wall as it launched, the meridian fragmenting behind them. Through the pod's viewport, Chen watched humanity's first diplomatic mission end in fire and blood. But as she clutched the freezing data cores, she allowed herself a grim smile. The Verkath thought they'd found easy prey, but they'd just taught humanity something invaluable about their weaknesses. They were hunters who relied on heat and energy to track their targets, which meant humanity would need to learn to run silent and cold if they wanted to survive what was coming. The war had begun, and Commander Sarah Chen had the key to fighting it clutched against her chest in a tomb of ice. Lieutenant James O'Malley slouched in the corner of the officers' club, nursing his third whiskey and watching tactical simulations of another failed engagement with the Verkath on the holoscreen. 3 months since first contact, and humanity's finest ships were being hunted like schools of fish by alien predators. "Run it again," he muttered to his datapad, bloodshot eyes fixed on the energy pattern analysis. Something about the Verkath attack formations nagged at his alcohol-fogged mind, a pattern he'd seen before. Still trying to solve the universe's problems from the bottom of a glass, Jimmy. O'Malley didn't need to look up to recognize Admiral Harrison's voice, or the contempt it carried. They'd been friends once, before O'Malley's unconventional theories had gotten him relegated to teaching history at the academy. "The answers are there, Marcus," O'Malley said, gesturing at his scattered data tablets with his drink. "We're just fighting them wrong. Looking at it all wrong." Harrison sighed. "You're drunk, Lieutenant. Go home before you embarrass yourself." Again. The dismissal sparked something in O'Malley's brain, connecting dots he'd been staring at for weeks. He grabbed Harrison's arm. "That's it. We're embarrassing ourselves, fighting like peacocks when we should be fighting like sharks." "Let go, Lieutenant," Harrison warned. "That's an order." "No. Look." O'Malley pulled up historical footage of deep-sea predators, overlaying their hunting patterns with Verkath attack formations. They're not just acting like predators, they're hunting like Earth's deep-sea predators. Energy signatures, heat detection, they're using the same methods that worked in Earth's oceans. "Security," Harrison called, but O'Malley was too excited to care. "We're fighting a space war like it's atmospheric combat," he continued, drawing more than a few stairs. "But space is just another ocean. Cold, dark, and humans mastered hunting in that environment centuries ago." 2 MPs approached, but a new voice cut through the tension. "Let him finish." Commander Chen stepped out of the shadows, her dress uniform still bearing the marks of recent combat. The entire room stilled. Everyone knew the lone survivor of the Meridian disaster by sight now. "Show me," she said, pulling up a chair. O'Malley's hands shook as he laid out his theory. Ancient submarine warfare techniques. Thermal masking. Silent running. The Verkath weren't just tactical geniuses. They were instinctive hunters, relying on the same targeting methods that had evolved in Earth's oceans. Which means, he concluded, we already know how to beat them. We just need to adapt our old techniques to space. Harrison scoffed. "This is ridiculous. You want us to fight a space war using centuries-old naval tactics. The physics are different, but the principles are the same," Chen said quietly, studying O'Malley's data. She pulled out a cold storage drive. "And it matches what I recorded during the Meridian attack. They couldn't target our unpowered sections effectively." The room grew silent as she played the sensor logs. Crystal-clear footage showed Verkath weapons repeatedly missing cold, unpowered portions of the ship. "They're apex predators," O'Malley pressed. "But Earth-evolved prey that learned to hide from apex predators. Creatures that learn to mask their signatures, run silent, strike from stealth." Harrison's face had turned an interesting shade of red. "Commander, you can't seriously be considering this drunk's theories." "Admiral," Chen replied, her voice arctic, "I watched my entire command die because we approached an apex predator like diplomatic equals. If Lieutenant O'Malley has insight into their hunting patterns, I want to hear it." The next hour was a blur of tactical simulations, historical footage, and heated debate. O'Malley's mind cleared as adrenaline burned away the alcohol. He showed them submarine warfare footage, deep-sea predator studies, and thermal masking techniques that had evolved on Earth. "We need ships that can run cold," he explained. "Crews trained to operate in near-freezing conditions. Silent running techniques adapted for vacuum. We've done it before. We just need to do it in space." "The power requirements alone make it impossible," Harrison argued. "You can't run a ship's systems at those temperatures." Actually, a new voice interrupted. The room turned to find Admiral Wong, head of Naval R&D, standing in the doorway. "We might be able to, especially if we adapt some of the technology from the Meridian sensor core housing." Chen smiled for the first time, "which just happens to be intact and in our possession." Harrison looked like he'd swallowed something sour. "You can't be serious about this." "Admiral Wong," Chen said, ignoring him, "how quickly can you put together a development team?" "I'll need experts in thermodynamics, submarine warfare history," Wong's eyes fixed on O'Malley, "and someone who understands both." O'Malley straightened in his chair, feeling hope for the first time since the war began. "I've been studying this my whole career, even if everyone thought I was crazy." "Sometimes crazy is exactly what we need," Chen said, "especially when we're fighting predators who think they've figured us out." Harrison stormed out as Wong began making calls. O'Malley watched his old friend go with a mixture of regret and determination. Personal bridges might be burning, but humanity's future mattered more than any one relationship. "Thank you for listening," he told Chen quietly. She shook her head. "Thank you for being willing to look crazy. Now let's go build some ships that can hunt the hunters." Project Shadowfish was born that night, in a bar full of desperate officers willing to try anything. None of them could have guessed how it would change the course of the war, or how it would force humanity to adapt in ways even O'Malley hadn't imagined. The Ghost Runner's engine room registered at just above absolute zero, cold enough to freeze the breath in Lieutenant Maria Santos's thermal suit into crystalline clouds. She watched the temperature gauge through frosted goggles, waiting for the telltale spike that would signal another system failure. "Engineering to bridge," she whispered into her comm, the sound barely carrying through the specialized equipment designed to minimize vibration. "Primary coolant matrix holding steady at 3 degrees Kelvin." "Acknowledged," Commander Chen's voice came back, equally hushed. 6 weeks of training had taught the crew that even sound waves could generate enough heat to register on Vorkath sensors. O'Malley's voice followed, tense with excitement. "Ready to begin full systems test. All hands to battle stations." Silent protocol in effect. The Ghost Runner represented humanity's greatest technological achievement, and its biggest gamble. A ship designed to run colder than space itself, using revolutionary heat sinks and thermal masking systems adapted from the Meridian sensor core technology. Santos watched her engineering team move in practiced silence, using hand signals and light codes to coordinate their actions. They looked like deep-sea creatures in their thermal suits, faces obscured behind polarized masks designed to contain even body heat. "Beginning power-up sequence," she signed to her team. The experimental engine core hummed to life, its sound dampened by layers of acoustic insulation. Every system had been redesigned to minimize thermal signatures, from the life support systems to the weapon capacitors. "Contact." The tactical officer's whisper crackled through the comm. "Vorkath patrol vessel at extreme range, moving parallel to our position." This wasn't part of the test plan. Santos felt her heart rate spike, knowing even that slight increase in body temperature could be dangerous if their thermal suits failed. "Maintain silent running," Chen ordered. "Continue system tests as planned. Let's see if this works." Santos watched the thermal readouts as system after system came online. The revolutionary heat sinks absorbed the energy output, channeling it through experimental matrices that dispersed it at levels barely distinguishable from background radiation. A crash from the maintenance tunnel made everyone freeze. "Engineering, report," Chen whispered. Santos checked her displays. Plasma conduit rupture in section C7. Peterson was doing maintenance. Her blood ran cold. He's trapped in there with a leaking plasma line. The temperature in C7 was rising rapidly. If they didn't act fast, Peterson would either freeze or burn, and the heat signature would reveal their position to the Verkath. Options, Chen demanded. We can shut down the conduit remotely, Santos replied, but the emergency override requires a vocal command. The vibrations would be detectable. Time until the heat signature becomes visible to Verkath sensors. 3 minutes, maybe less. O'Malley's voice cut in. The patrol ship's trajectory. Show me. Santos transmitted the data. The tactical officer who'd been tracking the Verkath responded immediately. They'll pass within detection range in 2 minutes, 40 seconds. Commander, Santos pleaded, watching Peterson's life signs fluctuate. We have to do something. The next 30 seconds stretched into eternity as Chen weighed their options: break silence and save Peterson, revealing their experimental ship to the enemy, or maintain cover and sacrifice a crew member to protect the project. Lieutenant Santos, Chen finally said, begin emergency shutdown sequence. Tactical, stand by on weapons. We're not losing anyone today. Santos took a deep breath, knowing her next words could doom them all. Computer, initiate emergency plasma shutdown. Authorization Santos Delta 7. Wait. O'Malley interrupted. The heat sink matrix. If we reroute all power through the experimental cores. Santos saw it too. We could mask the signature, but we've never tested the system under those conditions. The feedback could destroy the entire engine room. Do it, Chen ordered. Better than letting the Verkath know we exist. Santos' fingers flew across the controls, redirecting plasma flow through untested systems. Warning indicators flashed as the heat sinks operated far beyond design parameters. The temperature in C7 began to drop. Verkath vessel passing closest approach, Tactical reported. The entire crew held their breath. Santos watched Peterson's life signs stabilize as the emergency systems kicked in. The heat sink matrix strained but held. After an eternity, Tactical whispered, Verkath continuing on course. No sign they detected us. The relief in engineering was palpable but silent. Rescue teams retrieved Peterson, who would recover in medical. The experimental systems had performed beyond their design specifications. Well done, everyone. Chen's voice came through later, once the Verkath were out of range. Log everything we learned. Next time, we might not be so lucky. Santos studied the data from their improvised solution, already seeing ways to improve the heat sink design. The Ghost Runner had passed its first real test, but they'd learned something more valuable. The ship was only as good as its crew's ability to adapt. As she filed her report, Santos couldn't help but smile. The Verkath thought they were hunting prey. They had no idea they were helping humans evolve into something far more dangerous, predators who could stalk the cold depths of space itself. Multiple thermal signatures detected. The tactical officer's whispered report cut through Ghost Runner's bridge like a knife. 3 Verkath hunter ships, moving to surround the convoy. Commander Chen studied the holographic display, watching the civilian ships crawl through space like a herd of cattle, unaware of the predators stalking them. The refugee vessel Sanctuary limped along at the rear, its overtaxed engines making it easy prey. Time to intercept, she subvocalized. 17 minutes at current speeds. O'Malley leaned forward in his station, thermal suit creaking softly. They're using classic pack hunting formations. The lead ship will drive the convoy into the others' kill zones. Chen nodded. Ghost Runner had been shadowing this convoy for 3 days, running so cold even the civilian ships didn't know they were there. Now they faced their first real combat test. Status of our heat sinks. Operating at 30% capacity, Santos reported from engineering. We can maintain silent running for another 4 hours at current levels. Chen allowed herself a grim smile. 4 hours to save a convoy from hunters that didn't know they were being hunted themselves. Plot me a firing solution that keeps us in their sensor shadows." The bridge crew worked in practiced silence, coordinating through hand signals and text displays. Ghost Runner glided through space like a shark through dark water, using the convoy's own heat signatures to mask their movements. "Commander," the medical officer's voice crackled through the comm. "We have a problem on the sanctuary. Their environmental systems are failing. They've got refugees packed into the cargo holds, and temperature regulation is breaking down." "How bad?" "Bad enough that their heat signature is about to spike. If they can't get those systems under control, they'll light up on Verkath sensors like a beacon." Chen felt the weight of lives in her next decision. "Can we evacuate them?" "Not without breaking silence," O'Malley replied. "And the moment we do, those hunter ships will be all over us." The tactical display updated, showing the Verkath vessels moving into attack positions. The lead ship was already beginning its run to scatter the convoy. "What if we use that?" O'Malley suddenly straightened. "The sanctuary's heat signature. We could turn their hunting instincts against them." Chen saw it too, like a wounded seal bleeding in shark-infested waters. "Exactly. The Verkath won't be able to resist an easy target. If we time it right, we can draw them into a trap." Chen's mind raced through the possibilities. "But we'll only get one shot at this. If we miss, the entire convoy dies," O'Malley finished grimly. Chen opened a secure channel to the sanctuary. "This is Commander Chen of the UES Ghost Runner. We're going to try something risky. I need you to trust us." The captain's response was skeptical but desperate. "We're dead anyway if those raiders hit us. What do you need?" "When I give the signal, shut down all attempts at temperature control. Let your heat signature spike. Make yourselves as attractive a target as possible. You want us to draw their attention. Are you insane?" "Yes to both. But I promise you, Captain, they'll never see what hits them." The next 10 minutes were an elaborate dance in the dark. Ghost Runner maneuvered silently into position, using the convoy's drive signatures to mask their movements. The sanctuary's temperature continued to rise. "Verkath lead ship initiating attack run," Tactical reported. "Sanctuary, stand by," Chen ordered. "Engineering, divert all power to weapons. The moment we fire, they'll know we're here. We have to make it count." The lead Verkath ship accelerated, moving to scatter the convoy. Its companions adjusted course, preparing to pick off stragglers. "Now, Sanctuary, kill your temperature controls." The refugee ship's heat signature bloomed like a miniature sun. All 3 Verkath vessels immediately changed course, drawn to the apparently helpless prey. "They're gathering for the kill," O'Malley whispered, "just like pack hunters on Earth." Chen watched the hunters converge, their own sensors blocked by the sanctuary's heat signature. "Wait for it. Wait for it." The Verkath ships moved into perfect alignment, blood in their eyes. Fire. Ghost Runner's experimental weapons unleashed hell from point-blank range. The lead Verkath ship never knew what hit it. The second managed to begin turning before multiple plasma torpedoes struck its engines. The third got off a single wild shot before Ghost Runner's silent-running missiles reduced it to debris. "All targets neutralized," Tactical reported, voice shaking with excitement. "No survivors." Chen opened a channel to the convoy. "This is Commander Chen. The threat has been eliminated. Sanctuary, you can restart your environmental controls now." The convoy captain's responses ranged from shock to ecstatic. The sanctuary's captain just laughed. "I don't know whether to thank you or curse you, Commander, but that was the most beautifully vicious thing I've ever seen." "We learned from the best hunters on Earth," Chen replied, watching her crew's silent celebrations. "Sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one you never see coming." Ghost Runner resumed its hidden escort position, running cold and silent through the void. They'd won their first real engagement, but Chen knew the war was far from over. The Verkath would adapt, but so would humanity. The dance would continue, but now the hunters had become the hunted. The holographic display showed 3 human colonies burning. Not from direct attack. The Vorkath had found a far more insidious method of warfare. They're using our own survival instincts against us, O'Malley explained to the gathered fleet commanders. Every time we break stealth to save civilians, they're learning more about our capabilities. Commander Chen studied the footage from the latest massacre. The Vorkath suicide ships had struck without warning, their crews deliberately overloading their reactors near population centers. The resulting radiation forced Ghost Runner and her sister ships to choose between maintaining stealth or evacuating civilians. The new Vorkath commander is different, she said, highlighting tactical patterns. More patient, more willing to sacrifice assets for strategic advantage. Admiral Harrison's hologram sneered. If we'd stuck to conventional warfare instead of this stealth nonsense, we'd all be dead. Chen cut him off. But you're right about one thing. They're adapting to our tactics, and they're pushing us away from something. She gestured, expanding the star map. Ghost Runner had been tracking Vorkath fleet movements for weeks, noting how their attacks seemed designed to herd human ships away from specific sectors. The Helios cluster, O'Malley noted. They've been particularly aggressive about keeping us away from those stars. Lieutenant Santos, Chen called. Show them what you found. The engineer's hologram appeared, her face grave. We've detected unusual energy readings from the cluster's primary star. The Vorkath have placed some kind of device in its corona. What kind of device? Based on the energy signatures, Santos hesitated. We believe they're building a stellar lance, a weapon capable of inducing artificial solar flares. The implications hit the room like a physical blow. 3 major human colonies lay within range of the Helios star. How long? Harrison demanded. The device will reach critical mass in 72 hours, Santos replied. When it does, it'll trigger a coronal mass ejection that will sterilize every planet in the system. Chen watched the other commanders' reactions. Fear, anger, helplessness. The Vorkath had outmaneuvered them again. We need to strike now, Harrison insisted. Hit them with everything we have. That's what they're expecting, Chen countered. They know we can't ignore this threat. They'll have their entire fleet waiting to ambush any conventional attack. Then what do you suggest, Commander? We can't just let those colonies die. Chen shared a look with O'Malley. We've been developing new thermal masking techniques, ways to hide not just from heat detection, but to manipulate how our signatures appear. Show them, she ordered. Santos brought up new tactical displays. We've learned to use solar radiation to bend our thermal signatures, make our ships appear to be in different locations than they actually are. Ghost Runner can get close enough to disable that device, Chen continued. But we'll need a distraction, something to keep their fleet occupied while we slip through. Harrison's hologram flickered as he leaned forward. You want to use my fleet as bait. I want to use your fleet to save 3 colonies, Chen corrected, unless you have a better idea. The silence was deafening. I'll need volunteers, Chen said quietly. The closer we get to that star, the harder it'll be to maintain our thermal masking. We'll be operating in temperatures that could cook us alive if our systems fail. Engineering is ready, Santos replied immediately. O'Malley nodded. Tactical as well. One by one, Ghost Runner's crew signaled their commitment. They'd trained for impossible missions. Now they faced one that truly lived up to that standard. The next 48 hours were a blur of preparation. Harrison's fleet gathered for what looked like a conventional assault, while Ghost Runner's engineers pushed their thermal systems to new limits. We'll only get one shot at this, Chen briefed her crew. The moment we power weapons, our masking fails. We have to get close enough to kill that device with a single volley. What about extraction? Someone asked. Chen met their eyes through thermal masks. Let's focus on the mission first. We'll worry about getting home after we save those colonies. Ghost Runner slipped away from the fleet like a shark into dark waters. They rode the solar winds toward the Helios star, using its own radiation to hide their approach. The Vorkath fleet gathered to meet Harrison's attack, never suspecting the real threat sliding past their lines. The temperature inside the ship rose steadily as they approached the star. Thermal suits struggled to compensate. 2 crew members had to be sedated when the heat began affecting their minds. Device in visual range. Tactical reported. Voice cracking from dehydration. Chen watched the massive construct swimming in the star's corona. Beautiful and deadly, like everything the Vorkath built. "Get us targeting data," she ordered. "One shot. Make it count." Ghost Runner drifted closer, riding waves of solar plasma. Their heat sinks were failing, the ship's systems beginning to cook from the inside out. "Solution plotted," O'Malley whispered. "But Commander, we're inside the blast radius." Chen nodded. They'd all known this might be a one-way mission. "Send the firing solution to all weapons." "On my mark." The star burned around them, trying to pull their tiny ship into its embrace. But humanity had evolved in the shadow of such a star. They knew its power, its fury, and its beauty. "For Earth," Chen said softly. "Fire." Ghost Runner emerged from the solar hellstorm like a phoenix, her hull scared but intact. The Vorkath stellar lance had detonated spectacularly, its explosion masked by the star's own fury. But the victory had come at a terrible cost. 40% of our systems are offline," Santos reported from engineering, her voice rough from the superheated air they'd been breathing. "Heat sinks are completely burned out. We're bleeding thermal signatured like a wounded animal." "Casualties?" Chen asked, trying to ignore the blisters forming under her thermal suit. 17 crew in medical with severe heat trauma. No fatalities. But Santos hesitated. "Commander, we can't run silent anymore. Not until we get major repairs." Chen studied the tactical display. The Vorkath fleet was still engaged with Harrison's forces, but it wouldn't take them long to notice a damaged ship limping away from their destroyed superweapon. "Options." O'Malley, his face red and peeling from the heat, managed a grim smile. "They're looking for a wounded prey animal. Let's give them a different kind of target." He brought up the sensor data they'd gathered during their suicide, run through the star's corona. "The solar radiation. We learned something about how it affects their targeting systems. If we modulate our remaining power systems just right, we can look like a much bigger threat than we are." Chen finished, seeing the possibility. "Make them think we're a battleship instead of a wounded hunter." "Better." O'Malley's grin turned predatory. "We can make them think we're an entire wolf pack." The next hours were a desperate race against time. Engineering crews worked in the sweltering heat to reconfigure their damaged systems, while tactical teams analyzed the solar radiation patterns they'd survived. "Multiple Vorkath signatures breaking off from the main battle," Tactical reported. "They're moving to investigate our position." Chen watched the enemy ships approach, remembering how they'd once seemed invincible. Now she saw them differently, not as unstoppable predators, but as creatures bound by their own evolutionary limits. "Begin thermal dispersion," she ordered. "Let's show them some ghosts." Ghost Runner's remaining power systems pulsed in carefully calculated patterns, creating phantom heat signatures that danced through space like will-o-wisps. To Vorkath sensors, it would appear as if multiple ships were moving in attack formation. "They're taking the bait," O'Malley reported. "Changing course to intercept our decoys. Harrison's fleet is pressing their advantage," Tactical added. "The Vorkath line is breaking." Chen allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The hunters had become so focused on finding prey that they'd forgotten their own vulnerability to being hunted. "Commander," Santos called urgently. "We've got a problem. The radiation damage. Our reactor containment is failing. If we don't shut down soon, we'll lose antimatter containment." A horrible choice loomed. They could power down and hope the Vorkath missed them in the chaos of battle, or maintain their deception until their reactor exploded. That's when Harrison's voice crackled through their damaged comm system. "Ghost Runner, this is Admiral Harrison. We see your situation. Hold position." Chen's tactical display lit up as Harrison's fleet executed a surprising maneuver. Instead of pressing their attack, they released a massive barrage of thermal decoys, old-fashioned devices that generated heat signatures to confuse enemy targeting. Conventional warfare does have its uses, Harrison said, and Chen could hear the smile in his voice. Get your ship to safety, Commander. We'll handle the cleanup. The space around Ghost Runner bloomed with hundreds of false signatures, creating a thermal smoke screen that even Verkath hunters couldn't penetrate. Chen gave the order to power down, and her wounded ship slipped into blessed darkness. They drifted, running truly silent for the first time since their ordeal began. Through their sensors, they watched Harrison's fleet systematically destroy the confused Verkath ships, turning their own hunting instincts against them. Well, O'Malley said softly as they watched the battle unfold, looks like the old guard learned some new tricks. They adapted, Chen replied. Just like we did. Just like we'll have to keep doing. Ghost Runner limped home under conventional power, her silent running capabilities temporarily sacrificed. But they'd proven something vital. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their stealth technology or their tactics. It was their ability to change, to take what worked and make it better, to learn from both victory and defeat. The Verkath were fearsome hunters, but humanity had spent its entire existence learning to survive against overwhelming odds. As Chen watched her crew conducting repairs, she realized they'd become something unique. Not just hunters or prey, but adapters, survivors. And that, more than any weapon or tactic, was what would win this war. The Verkath thought they were dealing with simple prey animals. They were about to learn that humanity's evolution was far from complete. The Verkath invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace like a storm of razors, 500 warships strong. Their energy signatures blazed against the void, a deliberate show of force. They weren't trying to hide anymore. They were here to end the war with overwhelming power. In Ghost Runner's newly repaired bridge, Commander Chen watched the enemy advance with cold calculation. Status of the silent fleet. All ships in position, O'Malley reported, running cold and dark. The Verkath haven't detected any of them. Humanity's response to the invasion had surprised everyone. Instead of gathering a conventional battle fleet, they'd launched Operation Phantom Symphony, 30 Ghost Runner-class vessels, each one improved upon the original's design. They lurked in the darkness between stars, waiting. Harrison's task force is engaging the Verkath vanguard, Tactical reported, making it look good. On the main display, the Admiral's ships fought a desperate-looking retreat, drawing the Verkath deeper into the killing ground. The enemy's confidence was almost palpable. Signal from engineering, Santos called. Lieutenant Rodriguez reports something odd in the Verkath's thermal patterns. Chen frowned. Define odd. Their ships are running hotter than normal. Almost like. Santos's voice trailed off as she analyzed the data. Commander, I think they've modified their systems to detect lower temperature variations. They're sacrificing stealth for sensitivity. They're trying to adapt to our tactics, O'Malley realized. Make it impossible for us to hide. Chen smiled grimly. And in doing so, they've made themselves even more vulnerable to what's coming. Signal the fleet. Execute Symphony Protocol. Across the battlefield, 30 silent hunters began to move. Their coordination had been practiced for weeks, each ship's crew learning to work in perfect harmony. They weren't just individual predators anymore. They were a wolf pack that had learned to hunt in the dark. Multiple thermal blooms detected, Tactical reported suddenly. Verkath ships are actively scanning with enhanced sensors. They know we're here, O'Malley said. They just don't know where. Chen watched the enemy fleet's formation shift. They're expecting us to attack from stealth. Standard hit-and-run tactics. She keyed her comm. All ships, prepare for synchronized strike. Weapons free on my mark. The Verkath advanced cautiously now, their enhanced sensors sweeping space for any trace of human ships. But they were looking for hunters trying to hide. They weren't prepared for hunters working together. Now, Chen ordered. 30 ghost runners revealed themselves simultaneously, their weapons firing in perfect coordination. The Verkath's enhanced thermal sensors betrayed them. The sudden energy spike overwhelmed their sensitive detection systems, blinding them at the crucial moment. The first volley struck with devastating precision. Verkath ships died in silence, their deaths masked by their own sensor confusion. The survivors tried to respond, but the silent fleet was already moving, executing intricate maneuvers practiced in darkness. Multiple hostile ships changing course, Tactical reported. They're trying to establish a defensive formation. Too late, O'Malley said softly. They're already inside our web. The silent fleet struck again, this time from multiple vectors. Ships that had trained to hunt together now demonstrated their lethal choreography. Each vessel covered its partner's movements, creating phantom signatures to confuse enemy targeting. "Commander," Santos called urgently. "I'm detecting unauthorized transmissions from within the fleet. Someone's sending targeting data to the Verkath." Chen's blood ran cold. "Source." "Working on it." "Got it. It's coming from the Nightshade." "Their communications officer is a traitor," Chen finished, "or a Verkath spy. Either way." She studied the tactical display, mind racing. "O'Malley, can you get me a channel to all ships? One they won't expect." He grinned, catching her meaning. "Already on it. Using modulated thermal pulses to transmit. Old submarine trick. They'll see it as sensor ghosts." Chen broadcast to the fleet. "All ships, execute pattern Omega. The next phase begins now." The silent fleet moved with practiced precision, but not in the pattern they'd rehearsed. Instead, they flowed into a new formation, one designed to turn the traitors' intelligence against the Verkath. The enemy fleet surged forward, thinking they finally had reliable targeting data. They fired on the coordinates being transmitted from Nightshade, their enhanced sensors locked onto the predicted thermal signatures. They found only empty space and carefully placed traps. Multiple Verkath ships reporting critical damage, Tactical announced with quiet satisfaction. Their entire command and control network is compromised. The hunters' greatest weakness, O'Malley mused, is their certainty that they know where their prey will run. The symphony reached its crescendo. 30 silent hunters struck from impossible angles, their coordination making them seem like hundreds. The Verkath fleet, betrayed by their own enhanced sensors and false intelligence, began to break apart. "Signal from Harrison's task force," Santos reported. "They're moving to cut off the enemy's retreat." Chen watched the Verkath invasion crumble, undone by their own evolution. They had adapted their sensors to hunt more effectively, never imagining that their prey had evolved into something far more dangerous, hunters that knew how to work together. "All ships," she ordered, "close the net. Let's show them how humanity hunts as a pack." The silent fleet moved as one, and the symphony of their victory echoed in the dark between stars. The Ghost Runner drifted in the void, her systems running hot for the first time in months. Ahead, the massive Verkath diplomatic vessel approached with predatory grace, its thermal signature deliberately visible, a gesture of trust, however reluctant. "They're hailing us," O'Malley reported, using standard frequencies instead of their usual thermal pulses. Chen nodded. After the destruction of their invasion fleet, the Verkath had finally requested negotiations, but they'd insisted on meeting the ship and crew that had changed the nature of space warfare. "Return greeting," she ordered. "Full visibility protocols." Ghost Runner's stealth systems powered down completely. For a species that evolved as hunters, there could be no greater sign of respect than willingly becoming visible. The Verkath ambassador's image appeared on their main display. Its predatory features were no less intimidating than during first contact, but there was something different in its posture now. "Commander Chen," it said through the translator, "the one who taught prey to hunt hunters." "Ambassador," Chen replied carefully, "I hope we can move beyond questions of predator and prey." The alien's compound eyes studied her. "You have evolved far from your origins. When we first encountered your species, we saw only prey trying to act like equals. We did not understand. And now? Now we see what you truly are. Not prey, not predators, but adapters. Survivors who take what works and make it better. The ambassador's mandibles clicked. It is fascinating. O'Malley shifted beside Chen. We learn from Earth's oceans. Deep-sea creatures that evolved to hunt in darkness. Yes, the ambassador agreed. But you did more than copy their techniques. You improved upon them. Combined them with technology. Created something new. It gestured at the Ghost Runner. Created ships that can hunt better than biological predators. We had good teachers, Chen said. Your attacks forced us to adapt. To evolve. The ambassador's posture changed subtly. And now you could hunt us to extinction. Yet you offer peace instead. Why? Because humanity's greatest strength isn't our ability to fight, Chen replied. It's our ability to learn, to change, to find new ways forward. She smiled slightly, even to learn from those who once hunted us. The silence stretched between them, filled with possibility. Show me, the ambassador finally said. Chen glanced at O'Malley, who nodded. Ambassador, with your permission, we'd like to demonstrate something. A new technique we've developed. The Verkath's interest was almost palpable. Proceed. Ghost Runner's systems hummed to life, but not in their usual silent running configuration. Instead, they began generating carefully controlled thermal patterns, creating complex heat signatures that danced through space. We learned that thermal emissions can be more than just a way to track targets, Chen explained. They can be a form of communication, more precise than radio, more secure than traditional signals. The ambassador watched in fascination as Ghost Runner literally wrote in heat and light, creating messages visible only to those who evolved to see thermal patterns. You have taken our hunting senses, it said slowly, and turned them into something new. Something beautiful. This is just the beginning, O'Malley added. We believe we can adapt this technology for navigation, for communication between species, even for artistic expression. The Verkath was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its translator struggled to convey complex emotions. We hunted you, thinking you were prey. You survived, but did not become mere predators in response. Instead, you became teachers. We became what we needed to be, Chen said simply. What we always had the potential to become, and we're still evolving. The ambassador's next words surprised them all. Teach us. Chen blinked. Ambassador. Teach us this new way of seeing, of adapting. Our species has been apex predators for so long, we forgot how to change. Its posture shifted to one of formal respect. Perhaps it is time for us to evolve as well. As Chen looked around her bridge, she saw the future unfolding in unexpected ways. Humanity had emerged from this conflict not as conquerors or victims, but as pioneers of a new way forward. They had learned to run silent through the dark between stars, and in doing so, had learned to shine in ways no one expected. Ambassador, she said, this is just the beginning of what we can learn from each other. The Ghost Runner's thermal displays painted beautiful patterns between the two ships, writing the first words of a new chapter in both species' evolution. They had begun as hunter and prey, but they would go forward as something far more interesting, students of each other's strengths. The art of human warfare had become the art of human adaptation, and in the endless dark between stars, that art would continue to evolve, silent and beautiful and ever-changing.